My name is Daniel Jongma. I'm an actor. I've been an actor in short dramas for about 3 years now. I'm based in Australia, but I've shot in Australia, China, and Turkey. So I've enjoyed the kind of cultural exchange of working in different countries and how that is the same but slightly different depending on where I'm at. I'm more recently, I've moved into talent management as well. So I'm very passionate about bringing new talent into the industry. Because it is still a very growing industry and it does actually have a lot of opportunity to bring in new talent and to give actors that otherwise wouldn't have kind of been able to take that chance to enter the entertainment industry, which is I think is a brilliant part of short dramas.
You participate in the short drama very early. I think it just started 3 years ago
In the
overseas.
beginning,
So how did you get into the short drama field?
it was partially by accident. I was lead in the first short drama shot in Australia, which I was incredibly lucky to be on. And when I applied, or if I'm being correct, my partner applied on my behalf for me. I didn't even know it was going on. We didn't know that it was a vertical. We didn't know it was a short drama. We just thought it was a film or something like that. I was working as an accountant at the time because I'm a qualified accountant. And acting was kind of just like a bit of a faraway dream that I didn't really consider as realistic. But yeah, we applied off a Facebook post, and then they asked for an audition. I did the audition, and I had no idea what I was doing. But it all worked out, and they decided to take me. And since then, I've been doing short dramas pretty much full time.
What platform is that?
The first one was Flex TV. So it's titled A Matter of Sin and Love. It's one of the only short dramas I've done in my natural accent. Every other short drama, they ask for the American accent. I think I've done maybe two in my natural accent.
Acting verticals. Why are you
Yes.
doing that?
So acting vertical is kind of has two parts to it. Firstly, it is coaching and mentoring for new talent. And as I mentioned in my introduction, I'm very passionate about bringing new talent and bringing new actors into this industry. And it's because I'm so grateful for how this industry gave me a start in the entertainment kind of sector. I did not believe that acting was possible. I was like, oh, I'm not a celebrity. I don't come from like a celebrity family. My family has absolutely no connection at all to the entertainment industry. So it was this faraway dream that I didn't really believe in, but I always wanted to do. So acting vertical, first and foremost, I built and established so that I could give the information to people who kind of share that dream. They want to be an actor, but they don't really know how to get in and they've basically given up on it. But to show them how easy it is and how possible it is to get into the short drama industry because there are so many projects and it's so quick. So even if you miss one project, there's another one happening right after. And I think that that's wonderful. On the second hand side, acting vertical has now moved not just from coaching, it's developed into talent management, which is where I can actually mentor specific talent and help them with the full process, including negotiating their rates, negotiating their contracts, making sure they're cared for, and apply that kind of like additional level of mentoring and coaching beyond just kind of like posting a video and good luck. You know what I mean? So it's taking that education kind of one step further in a more official representative capacity.
You do the coaching online or coaching on the on set?
So it's a bit of everything, really. So I have online material because that's kind of the greatest way to promote the channel. So on my Instagram, my YouTube, I've got a Spotify podcast as well. And that's just to make all the information that I put out as accessible as possible. Because whether or not talent interacts directly with me, I still believe that I want to get that information and those kind of basic lessons and feedback out there as much as possible. So I do have a big kind of online component. Beyond that, I do personal self-tape feedback. So usually that's an online call where I'll chat, I'll like review someone's self-tape or their like vertical showreel, and then we'll chat about it online. And then on set as well. On set, I do vertical consulting as well. So teaching actors about the niche ways of acting for a vertical series. And that includes acting for the vertical frame itself, because a vertical frame is very narrow. So the way that you act and the way that you move is very unique compared to horizontal filming, but also looking at the tropes of vertical dramas and what is the purpose of this character? Are they the hero? Are they the villain? Are they the victim? What is their kind of story arc specific to how vertical dramas run? Because vertical dramas are very niche in terms of the genres that they do use. And typically the storylines are very kind of copy paste with a little bit of difference. So the benefit from the actor's perspective is that you can kind of see where your character is meant to be in the story. And while there is kind of a limit to the creativity in the industry, and we do hope that it becomes diverse, it does make the actors' kind of training a lot easier in the sense that if you could identify the trope that your character fits into and you identify the effect your character needs to have on the audience in that particular scene, it kind of gives you a very specific roadmap that helps you kind of jump into that role and provide a performance that suits the vertical drama. So those are the kind of things that I teach.
What is short drama? Are there any genres that are unique to short drama? So
It's a very big question. What is a short drama? And I think that a lot of people would kind of knuckle it down to the classic short drama as it stands at the moment in terms of genre, which is the rom-com slapstick kind of like comedy within. You've got a hero, you've got a victim, you've got a villain as well, and then it's kind of the victim's bullied by the villain, and then the hero comes in and saves the day. And then we have a look at kind of their relationship between the male and the female lead. They get together and then they go apart. They get together, they go apart, and then that's they get together in the end happily ever after. That's kind of like a typical short drama. But in terms of what it means to me, I believe a short drama is just solely based on the content format. I don't think that we should like knuckle it down into a genre, although rom-com is like the most common. I think a short drama is basically just the format. So we're looking at the 60-second episodes. We're looking at the episodic arc where each episode will have a beginning, some kind of like addition to the story, and then you've obviously got the cliffhanger at the end that encourages the viewer to watch the next episode, and that kind of plot arcs like rinses and repeats. And then you've got your kind of major arc beyond that. So I think that short drama has a lot of potential to expand into other genres. The rom-com arc has been largely successful, and most like attempts, there haven't been that many attempts, but most attempts to kind of expand the genres have still stuck to that same kind of slapstick, quick rom-com style. So there hasn't been an immense level of development beyond that, but I'm very hopeful that it will happen in the near future as this industry grows. We'll see we've started to see some more action series, which are really cool. Action on a vertical frame is a big challenge because the vertical frame does not like left-right movement. And most action, if you're kind of fighting someone, it's from the left to the right. So it's a really big challenge to film that. But we're seeing some more creative storytelling happening in short dramas, which is another reason why I think going into the future, we can't define a short drama just as that kind of rom-com classic storyline. We have to look at it as a content form, and then the genre just being kind of one part of that.
if you have to define short drama, what short drama is, then what is it?
So that was a big answer. I think if I had to define a short drama, I would say that it is the short episodic structure. It typically is run in vertical format, but it would be interesting to see it done horizontal. But it's effectively a 60-second episode that is stretched across like a 60 episode season, basically breaking down a feature film length into 60-second episodes, each with their own miniature episodic arc that all falls under the grand arc.
Why do short drama go viral? Are there any formula behind the hits?
I think that the formula is pretty out there, and it is that firstly, it has the kind of intense plots. I think that's the high stakes drama is really, really important in terms of capturing the viewer's attention. Having a hook is really important for viral content. And I think a lot of short dramas have that. They do it in various ways. A lot of them use just shocking content. And I think that's why have seen a bit of an uptick in the like hyper-sexualized short dramas, especially on Real Short lately. But they go for that shock value to hook you, to bring you in. And then because they have that short episodic arc where you're getting what we used to have like a 30, 40 minute TV series episode, that arc is condensed into 60 seconds. So because it's so quick, the viewer's mind is just fully engrossed in the short drama and there's no additional space. There's no kind of wait time before the next piece of information comes. And I think that that is also something that once the hook has brought the viewer is kept there because there's kind of no dead space in the short drama. And I think the third thing that they do that we were talking about before is they have that the cliffhanger at the end of every single episode. So every 60 seconds you get another dopamine hit of, "Oh my gosh, what's going to happen next?" And because you're constantly getting little bits of dopamine, the viewer kind of needs to know. Their attention is held, they're given another question, and they need an answer to that question. And that's why they keep watching, because even if they might not be fully interested in the story, they have to know, where does this go? What's happening next? And I think the formula, the hook, the no dead space throughout the entire like 60 seconds, it's quick, quick, quick. And then the cliffhanger at the end brings you into the next hook of the next episode, and then so on and so forth all the way through the series.
Why do you think short drama are becoming so popular?
I think there's a few reasons. I don't think that you can bring it down to one. I think the viral nature that we just spoke about of short dramas is really easily taken advantage of with social media. So in terms of lead generation, short dramas have grown immensely in popularity because on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, even Facebook, even though short dramas are on a specific app, viewers are kind of brought onto that app through social media that they're already engaging on. And because short dramas have that viral hook in all of the episodes, or at least a few big hooks in each of the series, it's very easy lead gen to capture someone's attention on social media. They have to know what's going on, what's happening in this story, because the hook is so strong. And then that brings them onto the app. And once they're on the app, they just cycle through. So I think that the that is a really big success point of short dramas. Beyond that, I think they've grown in kind of investment and they've become a much bigger industry at a time when cinema has kind of fallen off. Cinema is not as popular as it was kind of pre-COVID during like the pandemic. I think since the pandemic has ended, cinema is like slowly making a comeback, but it's really struggling. I think streaming services also have a lot of value in the content mix at the moment, but the space that streaming services are kind of missing, that short dramas are picking up, is that lack of dead space in the short dramas. So on a streaming service, it's very easy to kind of stop paying attention, go on your phone, because social media has kind of changed the average viewer's attention span to be significantly less than what it used to be kind of an expectation for. Consider that we used to sit in a cinema for a 2 hour, 3 hour movie, and our attention would be completely on that movie. Then you move into streaming services, which the majority of content on streaming services is actually TV series, which are that 30 to 40 minute episodes. So we're already reducing the time while being on a streaming service. But many people started watching, say, Netflix, and then they just go on their phone, get distracted if Netflix wasn't really kind of capturing them. So I think the fact that short dramas are able to capture your attention so well and then hold that attention because they're so quick, I think that's what they have that is missing from the major traditional Western streaming services. And I think the third thing that has caused them to have so much success is the fact that they're so accessible because they're on a phone. You don't need to kind of sit down in a cinema and have like 2 hours blocked out to watch one of these short dramas. You could be on the train to work, just looking for something to distract you. And there it is, right there. You've got something on your phone, super easily accessible. You can watch a couple of episodes, then you'll go to work, then on the train home, you watch a couple more. Whenever you have a spare moment, the easiest way to fill that time is with a short drama because the phone is something that pretty much every person has on them at all times.
Hi, I'm Maggie Han, founder of Short Drama Alliance. People think short dramas are innovative because it's short or vertical, but the real game changer is paid traffic. That's what reshaped how short dramas are written. I explain this in my booklet, Short Drama Writing 101, links in the description. Do you think the streaming platforms or cinemas will die and short drama will evolve in the future?
No, I don't think so. I think the way that, and it's anyone's guess, really. Like, depending on how the industry develops and what changes, we could bring in the concept of AI at this point in terms of talking about the future. We could bring in what's the next thing after phones, right? What if we stop using phones? What happens to short dramas then? What if we kind of put a chip in our brain? That kind of thing. So looking to the future, it's very open-ended in terms of where technology will progress, but based on what we know, I think short dramas will continue to grow. And I think in terms of the entertainment market share, short dramas will significantly increase. They already have had a massive kind of growth in the Western market in the last 3 years since they kind of started to get established. Because I know in China they've been going for like ten or more years, much longer than in English. But I think that cinema will never completely die. I think cinema will always exist. I think theater and cinema kind of will start to kind of connect and go hand in hand in terms of being a very special occasion. Cinema, like 10 years ago, was a normal thing to do. It was a classic. You're going on like your first or your second date, go to the cinema, see a movie. Like it was very easily accessible and it was very common for people to do. Nowadays, you only really go to the cinema if there's a big movie or a really exciting thing going out. So it's more of a special occasion rather than, oh yeah, let's go to the cinema as a casual thing. So I think that we're going to see streaming services and short dramas kind of compete quite closely. I don't think that it's going to kill either one because just as short dramas have that value in that they hook you in, they hold your attention, and that they have kind of no dead space in the episodes, I think people, what short dramas lack is they don't really challenge you to think. The benefit of short dramas is that they do all the thinking for you. They show you the whole plot. You don't really have to read into it. There's no hidden message in most short dramas. Maybe this will change in the future. But I think what the streaming services will continue to do, and their, shall we say, niche that they have, their advantage over short dramas, is they are presenting complex social issues. They have kind of series that are filmed not in a week or 2 weeks, but are filmed over a series of months. They have scripts that have been worked on for like years in advance of the production process, and they have significantly higher budgets for their series. So until short dramas, and perhaps they will, until short dramas kind of progress into that longer preparation time, bigger budgets, and like more complex stories, I think streaming services will always have value in the content mix. So I don't think that one will beat the other because as much as they are both competing for the viewer's attention, they're competing in two different lanes. So there will be some people that will prefer short dramas who aren't really interested in kind of complex thought, and there might be some people that really value that complex thought or those big budget projects that really challenge your thinking and entertain you, but ask you to consider what could happen next, as opposed to the short drama, which basically tells you what's going to happen next, but teasing it just ever so slightly with the cliffhanger. So to summarize that, I think that both streaming and short dramas have their own kind of space in the content mix, and some people might prefer one or the other, and some people might appreciate both in different moments. The same way that I might listen to some sad music, or listen to some rock music, or listen to a musical, depending on my mood and what I want to feel.
From your perspective, except genre action, what other genre deserve more attention and why?
That's a really good question. I think thriller is an interesting one. I think that there's a way to do it that still makes the viewer feel good because something I haven't mentioned until now, but it's kind of unsaid, is that short dramas run an escapist concept. So they make the viewer kind of feel good towards the end. They're appreciative once they finish a series, and that's kind of what keeps them coming back for more. So the issue with doing a horror short drama or even a thriller, which is kind of like a step back, is that viewers are kind of then put in a position where they might be scared or shocked. So I think that there's space to do it, but I'm not entirely sure how to integrate it into the current model of short drama, which is that every single episode you pay per episode unless you have like a subscription. Because I feel like if you give the viewers that tiny break between episodes and it's a horror, they're gonna check out. They're gonna leave most of the viewers unless they're very much interested. So horror, as much as I would like to see horror, I'm not sure how it works with the current business model of short drama. Beyond that, I think that a very, very high potential short drama genre would be the musical genre. We've started to see a few integrations of singer-songwriters going into short dramas and actually kind of performing their original music as part of the short drama. And I think Viglu has done a couple of those. And that's like really, really cool because it adds an additional part, an additional bit of value to the short drama, something to make it special and unique. But I think doing a short drama that is like fully a musical, where every couple of episodes you have a song and a dance, like High School Musical, like any of those kind of like full dancing and singing. I think that that would be a real challenge based on the way short dramas are filmed because they're very short, like they're very quick in terms of filming, less than 2 weeks, some in as little as 4 or 5 days. And it would take a lot of preparation, a lot of choreography to do a musical. But I do believe that that matches with the short drama audience at the moment, which is very much that kind of wanting to feel good, wanting to get kind of lost in the moment, lost in the romance. And I think that music is something that has so much power to just capture an audience. If you were able to merge that with like the short drama format, I think you have like a very high potential for success if produced well. But it's a risk because it would take a lot of budget and a lot of preparation.
I'm just curious, since the every episode is around 1 minute to 2 minutes and maximum long, how can music fit into one episode? You're gonna change music every episode, right?
Well, it would be the way that musicals work in like normal musicals, right? You go to a theater. What often happens is they'll actually have a theme, and that theme will be kind of the melody or the chord structure. For example, the musical Hamilton, very, very popular. Even between songs that are not specifically a reprise of each other, between songs, you'll still have that consistent beat, that consistent melody, rhythm, even if it's kind of two different characters or two different kind of parts of the story. And that's like a creative way that the writers of that music are able to keep that consistent flow going between scenes. So I think that it would be revolutionary. And I'm not suggesting at all that it would be easy, but to answer your question about, well, how would you put that music kind of together? And if you're constantly changing the song, what I believe you're inferring is that maybe that might be distracting or it would pull the viewers out of it because changing that would be a difficult thing to watch and be engrossed in. But you could have a similar through line, a similar kind of melody going throughout, a similar chord structure. And in that sense, you can kind of like work it within the episodes without it being jarring as it start, stop, start, stop. I think something that a lot of verticals have already done and done quite successfully is although they are 60-second episodes, some scenes run across multiple episodes. And this is probably what you would do to get the whole song out. Say you have like 4 episodes. That gives you 4 minutes, which I would say is like plenty of time to do a full song. You could have kind of like that plot twist or that kind of 60-second section. That's one verse of the song, or maybe a verse and a chorus. And then you have a little break period that the plot twist happens. Maybe that's part of like the bridge of the song. Um, and then that leads into the next episode where we pick up the next kind of the next verse where something has happened, something is new, something is different, and then so on and so forth into the third verse. So I think that there is still potential to work that into the vertical, and the value I think that that would have beyond a traditional vertical is that if you released an album like an album, an original album alongside that vertical, that gives you a significantly greater pool of people that you can obtain lead gen from. Because viewers will watch the musical on the like short drama platform, and then they'll like the music, and then they'll have like a personal connection to the music because they know the story. So then they'll start playing it on, say, Spotify or wherever they play their music, and then they'll want to go watch it again. And I think that something that a lot of short dramas don't really consider is the rewatchability. of the short drama. It's very much let's get viewers in, let's get them to watch it, and once the story's over, it's over. It's done. Maybe they'll rewatch it, but that's not really a big factor. It's all about just getting as many people in to watch it as possible. But I think the rewatchability of something is significantly beneficial to the platform because it keeps the viewer on the platform, thereby kind of reducing their like subscription churn. But yeah, to answer your question succinctly, I think that it is very possible to have a song go across multiple episodes.
How do you keep audience watch the short drama again? Is any suggestion?
Specific to musicals or to any short drama?
Any short drama?
Tough question. Very tough question. And I will not pretend to be an expert on this because I have not looked at the data. I'm specifically kind of just from my chats with fans and looking at it kind of from the actor's perspective. I think that what separates a short drama that you would watch once versus one you'd consider coming back to is the number one thing is quality. If you have a short drama that is just it exists for the sake of filling content, it's a story that was created without love, without preparation, without passion. If it's something that you've just done one take of every kind of shot, you've just done one take, okay, good enough, move on. We ticked that box, we've got the shot, let's go. That's a short drama that I don't believe anyone is going to watch again. So it comes down to the production process. Beyond that, beyond that, I think that when a viewer strongly connects with a character's journey, and by extension with the character themselves, that's something that stays in the viewer's mind after they like finish watching. So a character that is well developed, that has multiple dimensions, that is real on screen, that really kind of captures you in their performance, that is something that a viewer will come back for. If a character is kind of one dimensional and the story is too predictable, it's not really worth watching again, I don't think. So the challenge there is twofold. I think that firstly, it is very specific to the actor themselves. I think that if the actor is not able to fully kind of grasp their character and the emotions of that character, and they're not able to get the audience to relate to their performance, the short drama will probably not even be finished, let alone rewatched. But on the other hand, if the actor is able to really kind of perform in such a way that an audience will connect strongly with their character and their journey and their emotions, and the audience kind of has that empathy for the character, then absolutely, I think that that will like very much increase the rewatchability of that vertical. On the other hand, I think that on the production side, I think it's really important that you have a story that has that balance of being predictable enough that it still fits within short dramas, but still has that kind of additional layer. And it just needs to be subtle, something that separates the short drama from everything else on the platform. Because if it is exactly the same, if you have copy pasted a plot that has been done 100 times before, which has happened many, many times in short dramas. We see a lot of copy paste plots that don't really have anything unique to them. If there is nothing unique and everything is completely predictable, there is no reason for someone to rewatch that short drama. There's nothing special about it. There's nothing to stay in that viewer's mind to say, oh, yes, that specific short drama is one that I want to watch again. Because the way the industry is today, there is so much content. 3 years ago, there was barely anything. Now, there are thousands upon thousands of short dramas on every single platform. A lot of them don't even cross over between platforms. So viewers have to jump between platforms in order to kind of watch all the stars that they want to see. So I think that having something unique to the story is really important for watchability as well.
You've been acting for 3 years. Have you seen any trend or changes in the scripts?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I think that there are, as the industry grows, the more people that enter the industry, the more ideas there are. And what I have seen happen is that the industry kind of goes up and down in terms of the scripts. It appears, and I have on good authority that this is true, but it appears like a lot of the decision makers in the platforms that have existed from the beginning are driven by data. So they look at a project, they take a successful project, and then they produce 200 of that project again. because they look at the data and they're like, oh, this project did really well. Let's replicate it. And the trend there is basically just you see one hit project that has something unique to it, and then in the next 6 months, you will see another 100 variants of that project, which I personally don't think is the greatest way to go about it. But I'm not a decision maker, and I haven't seen the data myself, so I can't really comment on that because I have no authority there. But in terms of the trends, I think that very much there's been this need to provide viewers with shock value, and we kind of were talking about it before, where the the scripts will have something that is so out of the norm, whether it is a crazy event that happens. It used to be that like pouring a drink over someone, that used to be like a big deal. Now, standard, viewers have seen it. And so we've seen this trend of platforms just trying to gradually increase and increase and increase in that shock value. And it could be in the stunts, it could be in the sexual nature of some of the scripts as well. And I think that the trend of just trying to increase that shock value is probably driven by the data side. But what happens when you only focus on providing shock value to viewers is you lose the value of the story because it's no longer about the story. It's about just kind of throwing something into the face of the viewer to hook them in. And that works temporarily, but it doesn't keep them there. And I think that's an interesting kind of trend that I feel like there are some platforms that have become very focused on creative storytelling. And from an actor's perspective, I love that. I think that's awesome. And there are some platforms that are focusing on the shock value. And you can see which of those platforms are which. And I think that that trend is going to be something that separates platforms in the future. As more and more kind of viewers join the vertical community, whether platforms are just going for shock value or whether platforms are providing kind of that brand, that creative brand, that, oh, I'm going to give you a good story as part of the platform's brand, that I think is going to cause viewers to choose one or another in the near future.
It can be some shock values, but most important thing is the original story. Is that what you mean, right?
I mean, it's difficult to value one over the other. I think that you can do an original script, and the originality of the script is the shock. You know, if a viewer is expecting a standard vertical story, but then you flip it and you give them something different, that is a shock. That is something for a viewer to go, oh, okay. I'm interested. I want to know what happens here. But the problem with doing a copy paste plot that then just has one scene that is over the top. I mean, verticals are over the top to begin with, but I'm talking like going well beyond what like anyone would kind of be comfortable with just for the sake of saying something crazy. That, if anything, I believe pulls viewers out of the kind of like the magic of the short drama. Because if you're watching a short drama as a comfort watch, which I think most viewers do, they watch it because and this is not all viewers, but they watch it because it's easy and it's comfortable, it's simple. That's something short dramas do that is really, really good. That's something that's great about the industry. But if you're watching something that's comfortable, that's kind of your comfort watch, and then suddenly there's just this crazy hypersexual scene that has this like very like pornographic kind of language, it kind of pulls you out of the romance because it's nasty. It's not sexy. It's not like romantic. It's just gross and it's disgusting. And I think that when you have like a scene like that that happens in the middle of what is otherwise a very magical, kind of like beautiful romantic story that the viewer is engrossed in, that one scene, although it might be shocking enough to force people to come and like view your platform and be like, whoa, what is going on here? The problem with having one shocking scene is that it completely like destroys the magic of the rest of the story. Whereas on the other hand, if you have a unique story that has something that is creatively shocking, something that reels you in not because it's just gross and disgusting, but something that reels you in because it's genuinely like a creative way to express a scene or a story. A good example is that there's an Australian producer, Total Media, who did a recent series, I think it was called Falling for Her Bodyguard. Amazing fan response. It was a very wonderful story. It still had the classic vertical tropes, but it was done really uniquely in the way they did the shots, in the way they did the stunts. But specifically, what I want to mention is the way they did the romantic scene. It was not at all kind of an overly graphic, overly kind of like dirty, pornographic kind of shooting. It was actually a romantic, a tasteful, a sexy kind of like shoot that looked really kind of like powerful in terms of its creativity. And there are many ways that you can communicate two characters being in love. Just to use kind of the romance as an example of shock versus creative, doing something that is shocking for dirty or nasty reasons, I think pulls the viewer out. And they're like, oh, that is not what I was wanting to watch. But equally, you can shock them with how good and tasteful the scene is. So I hope you understand where I'm getting here. But there's that kind of like difference in storytelling. I think it's easy. It is easy and simple to shock someone with something that's disgusting, but it takes skill and effort and time to shock someone with something that is tasteful. And I think that that is where the value is, and that's going to be the big separator in stories going forward.
You must talk to your audience a lot. How's the audience feedback influence your acting decisions?
I think that audience feedback is one of many things that goes into it. One of many things, because for a fan to give feedback, the fan is ultimately the person that watches the series. So their feedback is so valuable for that reason. But the challenge with receiving feedback from fans is they don't see the whole process. They don't know how many takes you had. They don't know what the script looked like before you started kind of joined the project. Quite often, the script I receive and the script that we actually perform is different even between that kind of day. So I think while the fans have definitely altered my view of the industry and definitely provided me information in how to act, it is definitely something you have to take with a grain of salt because it is kind of like they're only able to see part of the process. But to answer your question about what has changed about my acting since kind of speaking to the fans, I think definitely a priority on providing the fans content that has something unique to it. I think one thing that the scripts, the typical script that I read and the typical project I jump on, as I mentioned, they're very copy paste. And something the fans really appreciate is when you add a little bit of flavor to it. When you give it that second dimension, that little bit of kind of extra value to the character, another dimension, whether that's the character has an objective that we don't quite get, whether they give a look at a certain time, something to make it so that the character is not kind of like a brick wall. And for me personally, like I typically play the hero. And the way the hero is typically written in these vertical scripts is he's very stoic, he's very cold, and he's largely emotionless. Like he doesn't really show that much compared to the female lead who is very emotional and she's experiencing like extreme trauma constantly. So in terms of how I've manipulated my character, I've made sure that in every story I find moments to give that emotion. So although my kind of leading hero might be established very early on as stoic, as cold, and as kind of like pretty much a statue for all intents and purposes. But when he has that conversation with the female lead in a private space, I make sure that in those scenes that we really see the emotion, that we see the care. Because as much as the leading male is written as stoic, the audience has kind of shown me that they want to see him as a protector. Not just as a hero, not just as someone who comes in, saves the day, and makes a big song and dance about it, but someone that genuinely can provide emotional support to the female lead when they have those private moments. To show how he sees the female lead as special, as someone who he kind of like is genuinely bonded with, rather than him seeing the female lead as just an object or someone for him to just kind of pick and be like, okay, you're mine now. So definitely showing that emotional care and that big kind of shift between how he treats the general population, all the other characters, and how he specifically treats the female lead. I have a big contrast in my characters for that.
How's the short drama industry in Australia right now?
It's growing. It's much smaller than LA and significantly smaller than China. China is huge, huge industry. To put it in perspective, it's a bigger number now. So I think for every like 50 short dramas that LA produces, which LA produces about 50 every week, Australia maybe produces two or three. So very, very small in comparison. We've got a few production companies in Sydney. We've got a couple production companies in Melbourne as well. And recently I've seen, because I work as a talent agent, so I'm on top of all the castings. Recently I've seen a few pop up that are just on the outskirts of Sydney. So like an hour's drive outside of Sydney, which is cool. And then new producers who are going into the industry as well. So I think that there is a bright future for the Australian vertical industry, but it has not yet kind of been realized or tested.
Most of short drama scenes are shoot inside, whether in a house or something. So what's the difference? I mean, shooting in Australia or in LA?
I think that there's quite a few differences. You'd be very surprised. I think firstly, the biggest difference is you get access to a completely new talent pool. So that's a talent pool in terms of the actors. So if you're only shooting in one country, you kind of get all of the actors in that country, and then that's about it. And then that kind of content mix gets pretty small. Whereas then you go to another country, and then you have a completely fresh set of faces that is completely new. So I think that's something that Australia is kind of able to provide the short drama industry. Beyond that, you also get an increase in the talent pool in terms of the producers, new directors, new kind of crew. So the challenge in the Australian industry is we're pretending to be in America because most short dramas, almost all short dramas, are set in America. And the platforms have decided, based on the data, that to set the short drama in America is going to be more successful than setting it anywhere else. So the challenge for us is that when we film outside, we have to make it look like America, which adds to the stress and problems with production. Australia has some beautiful landmarks, some beautiful places, beautiful beaches, so much potential that I believe has been unrealized because of those kind of data-driven decision making up the top. Um, but like I said, I think that there is a bright future for the industry. There's a vertical that's happening in Australia next week that is set in Australia. And it has kind of like a reason in the story as to why it's in Australia. So it still has that kind of like American feel to it, but it's without breaking any confidentiality. It works it into the story in such a way that it makes sense. And that is going to be a story that has unique kind of aspect to it because it's set in Australia. And that's something unique. The story itself and the characters in it are going to be unique because of that. So I think that in terms of rewatchability, as we were speaking about before, that's an example of how you can create unique storytelling with crews and talent that are already experienced in the short drama industry. Um, but yeah, it is a challenge because not only that, we're all speaking in an American accent, and our natural accents are like this, like "G'day, mate," like that's the Australian, whereas the American is more kind of like this, and we speak very differently on camera than we would speak behind the camera. That's a challenge for a lot of actors. I find it fun. I love accents, but that makes it a little bit more difficult when casting because it limits your cast to people who can do the American accent.
You with an Australian Vertical Short Drama Association.
It's a organization, and I represent kind of actors in that organization. I'm the director of talent. And we're looking at achieving a few things. The first thing, our kind of like primary mission, is to increase the quality and number of productions shot in Australia. Because the challenge with LA at the moment is that most production companies are competing for locations. There is only so much space in LA, big place, but when you have so many productions wanting like the same location, it's a big challenge. The thing that we have in Australia is no one's competing because there's not enough producers. So there's a really big opportunity there to expand on the amount of short dramas that are shooting in Australia, and we kind of want to support new producers entering the industry by kind of giving them the information that they need. to create kind of their connections and networking so they can start producing. Beyond that, we also want to increase the quality of the productions in Australia. We plan to do that by kind of further kind of education, by kind of showing people in the professional kind of traditional side of things and inviting them over to verticals and giving them kind of a crash course in this is what a vertical is compared to what you're used to in traditional horizontal film. Because Australia does like it's much smaller than America, but it does have like a consistently working entertainment industry in the traditional kind of horizontal side of things. So bringing more traditional horizontal crew members is going to increase the quality like tenfold because we have people that are genuinely focused on high quality storytelling then entering the vertical market as well. So that's going to be pretty powerful. Beyond that, from my end, I obviously want to do the same thing for talent. I want to bring new actors in, bring actors in from the horizontal side, give them the basic kind of like necessities and skills that they need to work for verticals. And we're hoping to kind of put everyone under one big umbrella and all kind of collaborate and share like information that can help us kind of grow the industry as a whole. And beyond that, also kind of help people stay protected in the industry. And for me, this is kind of a big point as well, because actors are the last people that join the project. We often don't know, especially when you're beginning your career, you don't know who you're working with. And you kind of just show up on set and blindly hope that like everything is going to be safe, everything is going to be taken care of, that you're not kind of going to get like thrown in a van and then driven somewhere completely like random. So I think having that verification process as well, where someone can come to me and say, "Hey, Dan, like this producer's wanting to cast me for this thing. Are they real? Like, are they legit? Is this a real project? Like, what's going on here?" And then I can say, "Yes, that's a real project, and here's a couple of things you need to know to make sure you have a good time." So we're looking at kind of promoting the industry in terms of quality, in terms of the number of projects, but also keeping everyone safe and making sure that everyone's kind of adhering to those kind of regulations and standard things that you would expect people to do, but occasionally get missed because short dramas are very quick. And so sometimes cutting corners is a little bit tempting, or things just get forgotten in the speed of things.
What do you think the future of short drama looks like?
Very tough question. As I mentioned before, when we talked about the future a little bit, it's anyone's guess. I think that short dramas could. I definitely think that there is a future growth. I can say that with like absolute certainty. I think that short dramas will not ever become the only mode of entertainment, the same way that like cinema did not kill theater or streaming services didn't directly destroy bookshops. We still have bookshops, but they're just less. So I think short dramas are on the up and up. They're definitely going to increase in the near future, and I look forward as well to the development of more diverse genres, more diverse plots, more diverse cinema, basically in short dramas. Because one of the big drawbacks is that it's just a vertical frame, and everyone talks about the challenges of a vertical frame, and very few people look at the opportunity of how we can use that vertical frame to create something new. I think the future of short dramas very, very soon is going to be an influx of very creative filmmakers who are going to start looking at the vertical frame as something to experiment with. And the really, really exciting thing about that is that we have like 100 years of cinema, maybe like 50 years of cinema. I don't know exactly. But we have a long time of cinema where pretty much every shot has already been done in several movies. There's not a lot of like room for doing something that's absolutely groundbreaking. Whereas on a vertical frame, the entire game has changed. Everything is fresh, everything is new. So I think that in the very near future, we're going to have a significant uptick in the creative side of shooting. As budgets grow, as shooting times kind of like increase, we're going to have that high quality filmmaking take kind of the forefront. I also think equally, short dramas are going to separate into tiers. This is something that we can already kind of see, but you're going to get short dramas that are low quality, low budget, shot for the sake of just having content. And those will exist. And those will get some traction, but they're not going to be kind of big hits. And then you'll get bigger budget projects where you're hiring kind of crew and talent that are like much more experienced in short dramas, much more capable. And then you're going to give them scripts that are creative, that are fresh, that are unique, and you're going to get a production process that maybe takes a bit longer. Maybe the budget is twice or three times the size of some other projects, but that project is going to be 10 times more successful because it is going to be kind of that big blockbuster of a short drama. I think we'll see that kind of separation into quality tiers very soon. It's already kind of started to happen between the platforms. Um, but yeah, I'm really excited for it though. I think it's going to be cool. Whether that happens or whether that doesn't happen, like as a whole, the industry is definitely going to keep growing, and there's space for everyone that is currently in it, and there's going to be even more space for everyone new who's going to join. So yeah, I'm really excited for the future of short dramas.